All right, Bitcoin continues its slide, but is there a potential line of resistance that could be forming? We're going to dive into that a little bit today, but also take a look at where sentiment is holding and whether or not we're seeing a long-term bear market, or is this something that is more of just a down cycle? My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to TechPath. Joining me today, Evan Aldo, coming in for technicals. Great to have you back in here. Evan, let's get into a little bit of this. First, I want to talk about, and that is the market holding in at 1.5 trillion right now. If you look at where CoinMarketCap is holding, 1.5 trillion, and of course, Bitcoin dominance still at 41.8, which I was surprised that that continued to climb up, which is interesting as we see that move around a little bit. Some of the stories that a lot of people have been looking at, with where Bitcoin has kind of come from is around the whole aspect of the fact that we've seen such a fall off from the previous high. And of course, if you look at this story from CoinDesk, Bitcoin dropping to a 6-month low. Ether, of course, is eyeing bearish cross as U.S. stocks index futures erase kind of the early gains that we saw around the 64 to 67, 69 mark. A lot of this, again, too, has been geared toward what's happening in the stock market. Obviously, the stock market triggered a lot of where we are seeing many of the crypto markets right now. We'll dive into a little bit about that and what that might mean, and that is around this Fed meeting that's coming up this week, and that is Wednesday. This is the FOMC meeting that they've got holding up here, and essentially what Jerome Powell is trying to do, and this is kind of I think the technical aspect of being able to control an economy that had been somewhat overheated, and also what we were seeing in terms of deflation or inflation, and the potential for what we could see is if the Fed goes a little bit too hard on tightening the reins here, of moving us into a potential recession. And that's the one concern that I think a lot of traders have right now in traditional markets. Obviously, here in the crypto markets, we're also equally concerned about that. If we do see enough tightening, if they don't release a little bit of the pressure, then the likelihood is that the Fed could potentially push the U.S. into a recession. So that is one of the scenarios that could play. So this meeting this week on Wednesday is a big one that we will see the potential of where and what this might be. But when you look at the markets and who's holding Bitcoin today, I wanted to jump over here to Bitcoin treasuries just to give you an example. Right now, ETF's holding about 809,000 Bitcoins, or 29 billion. Then you've got countries holding in almost 10 billion in Bitcoins. And then public companies around 9 billion and private companies around 6 billion. Then if you look at the individual public companies out there, obviously MicroStrategy leading the way with Michael Saylor, holding at 4.5 billion right there, 1.5 billion over at Tesla. Galaxy Digital Holdings with Novogratz and his team at almost $500 million, almost 600 million, I should say. And then Voyager Digital, 444 million. And then you start to crack into the miners, which are going to be Marathon Digital, Square Inc., obviously Jack Dorsey, HUD 8, Riot, and Coinbase kind of lining out. So the point is that we've got a lot of major companies, investors, and also whether it's public or private, that have really kind of moved and continue to hold in Bitcoin. I think the big question is, where is this going to go? So, all right, Evan, so let's break into it today. We're going to look at both Bitcoin and ETH, kind of where you see things going. I noticed we just cracked the 34 mark as recording, so interesting.
It's really exciting because the major level that we're looking at, and this is in my opinion the kind of the macro bull market support level, is around this linear spiral line. As you can see, this is the one it bounced off of over the summer, 2 places right here. This was the bottom in July, and now we hit it. We wicked down a little bit more this morning, which kind of makes me feel like we're entering a macro bear market. However, maybe you could just blame this little wick down on some FUD, stock market FUD, Russia FUD, all those type of things, and maybe we recover a little bit. There is some hope here. Look at your weekly VWAP. I want to show you guys. Weekly VWAP is curving up. This is where you get a green dot when this VWAP finally curves up. That would signal a big bottom. When could this happen? End of February, maybe end of March, the latest. So I think it'll probably happen earlier rather than later here, considering we're just free falling. You got to have a recovery at some point here. And then if you compare this to how we looked over the summer, you look at your RSIs on Market Cipher B right here. This is how they were at the end of July when we bottomed out around high 20Ks. And it was right here. They're at the same general level. You can see this right here. I could say if we could reclaim 34.8. If you look at some of the lower time frames, we could zoom in a little bit. This is the line we want to reclaim. If we could reclaim this area right here, 34.6.8 around there. If we could reclaim this within the next 24 hours, we might have some hope here. Yeah.
So when you look at, let's say short term, next 3 months, so end of May, really, or April, I should say. If we look at that short term trading right now, are you looking at potential longs on Bitcoin? Are you looking at some adjustments for shorts? What are your thoughts on that?
So I've been long on Bitcoin kind of off of this line, this other spider line that we hit a bit earlier. Let me get in some lower time frames and see here.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people are trying to figure out, okay, am I in a position to where I kind of lock in? A lot of people kind of miss the window to take either profits at the November-December opportunity, which was around the 69 to say 55 range. Is this something that they want to say lock in on and hold? For many people, if you're coming to this channel for the first time, maybe this is the perfect shot for you to get into Bitcoin. Now, I know some people are saying, what could be the worst case scenario? But I want to talk about the short term right now, and then we'll get into kind of the long term and what that might look like.
The good sign right here is we had a major, like look at this reaction right here off of this linear spider line at about 33K. A lot of people are buying it up right now, 4% just like that within the last few hours. That is big, and that's a very strong bullish signal that we could be hitting a bottom. If you look at some of your middle time frames, I mean, they're looking kind of in between. RSIs have been way down in your 4 hour, which is a good sign. Didn't really work out too well here. It just came down more. But your 12 hour, you're printing bottoms. You're printing green dots. Your daily VWAP, this line right here, once it curves up, that signals a bottom. You're going to get another green dot. That's a buy signal. You could be bottoming out. In terms of a more longer term thing, like you were saying, it could get pretty interesting. You could have a nice rally upwards here, and this is kind of my price prediction for the end of the bull run if we do stay bullish. So right here, you can measure out kind of how we came up if we do repeat a scenario like this, where we come up with the money flow and get overheated again up to these levels. This would bring you up to June. It could go later, but I'd say June, beginning of June, the earliest this could happen. Look right here, it would be a similar percentage to, this is going to be kind of crazy. I know some people may say this is just overly bullish. Oh, not 400, but it was a little bit around this general area. So around 267, 270, around that general area.
But you're looking at dates right towards the end of 2020 in that range.
End of, from 20, it was that run up. If we compare previous run ups, about 270% would bring you up to about 130.
Yeah.
So crazy, most bullish possible scenario, about 130K by the summer. Extend that out, maybe beginning of 2023, the latest. That would be a bull market peak.
Yeah, and I was looking at something that was over on Twitter. They were showing this, of course, coming in from BTC Fuel. He showed kind of the historical waves here, which is very similar to what you're talking about, because we're right here in between waves 2 and 3 right now, which was 3 settling in at potentially a fake top, and then the cycle top out here in wave 4. Because that's the thing that we have seen is in terms of an elongated cycle in comparison to what we saw in 2016-17. Where we did see the movement, and then of course the blow off top right here in what was 2018, right? 2018. So that potential opportunity right here is kind of in line with what you're talking about right here in terms of a potential growth here. So question would be, worst case scenario, this goes another way.
So the worst case scenario, and if you look historically, Bitcoin has never gone below its previous bull market high ever. So that would be 20K.
Yeah.
If we do go, I mean, in the 20K range, I don't really see us ever going below 20K. Maybe 20K. You know, maybe there's some crazy black swan event, something crazy with the stock market. You know, unforeseen circumstances could bring us theoretically a little bit below that. I don't really see us going below 20K.
Yeah, I think the worst thing that people are looking at right now is the potential for recession. Right. And if the Fed does continue its QE and we look at some tightening and we do see interest rates starting to move, we already have seen, and a lot of people now are even walking back the inflation aspect of it being non-transitory to back to where they think inflation is and was potentially really transitory. meaning short-lived. If that is the case, and if Jerome Powell on Wednesday starts holding in on that, meaning either not necessarily reducing the acceleration, but definitely not being so forward in terms of additional interest rate and charges or inputs into the economy, that could get us back into a position where we don't move into a recession. That's going to be the key thing, like you're talking black swan. If we push it, or if the Fed pushes us in some way into a recession, that's a scenario where we will see stock market corrections. We will see, obviously, cryptocurrency market corrections in a big way.
Yeah. I don't think it'll happen, in my view. I think we got another year or two of generally moving up with the stock market. There's some fear right now, but I think they could kind of manipulate it enough with the Fed to another year or two.
Well, and these are a lot of people. I know a lot of people out there right now are probably just looking at their portfolio and saying, "Listen, my portfolio is down 35%, 40%." The reality is that if you were in Bitcoin in the early phases, this isn't even affecting you. If you're in Bitcoin or Ethereum or any of the altcoins in the early phases, this is just one of those down market hits that we've seen already. We saw one that this summer when we went to 29,000.
Right.
So it's not an unusual event in the sense that this is a long-term play. I think the question is whether or not there's two key things that have to happen. One is we cannot go into a recession. That starts to get things very unstable, both in stock market, traditional markets, and then obviously real estate gets hit. Now we're talking about getting into asset classes that really can affect movement in a lot of these liquid classes, like what we're seeing here. But the opportunity is that if this does hold, providing we don't run into a war or something with Russia over Ukraine, those kind of scenarios can start to affect a lot of these markets. So we are walking a little bit of a tightrope right now, for sure. But at the same time, I see what you're saying in terms of the chart. Let's take a look at Ethereum, because I think Ethereum is one that you were kind of mentioning that may be on. There's some opportunities there, definitely, for where Ethereum is holding right now.
My macro bull market support level for Ethereum is a tiny bit higher than it is for Bitcoin. It's the same kind of trend line that I was showing you earlier. This trend line's at about 22 even, so we didn't really lose it just yet for Ethereum, and we had a really nice bounce off of it, as you can see around here. And for those new with technical analysis, when you have a really big bounce 5% just off of a point, that's pretty strong. That could signal, especially when you're in a downtrend like that could signal a trend reversal. Ethereum could get, for a longer term price prediction, obviously there's always a little bit more risk and opportunity with risk and reward with the altcoins. If we repeat this general type of thing on the weekly where we come up again, and that would bring us up to summer, this type of percentage, it's going to be crazy, but around 650%.
That's an insane growth potential, though.
You go up to, say you extend this bull market out till 2023, I mean, it would be around 16K, I believe, 15, 16K. That's what a lot of predictions were with it. I mean, it's an 8X from here. Ethereum's always done crazy numbers in bull runs.
Well, I think the key here is that we're at a pivotal market position. When you look back at this chart right here, it does show these wave patterns, and that pivotal point that we're sitting in between right there, number 2 and 3, is unique because of the market conditions. And when I say market conditions, we've seen really the S&P 500 take a dip for the first time past its support level, which is usually, that's a significant issue. But you've got a lot of intrinsic values that are coming in from the rest of the world, including the Fed, obviously wrapping up what we're seeing with the pandemic, scenarios now of trying to recorrect the ship in terms of the economy without getting an overheated economy, without getting into the recession. As long as and I think it goes back to the point, as long as we don't see a movement in international affairs or a black swan event in the stock market, which would cause those then we could be transitioning right into phase 3, wave 3, which if you look at wave 3 right here, in the past history, they had that secondary, which was the fake top that happened back in early 2018. So very interesting to see before it saw its blow off top in 2018, which was up to 20K. So there are some potential opportunities here. I think the big key is if you're new into crypto, maybe you're just starting to look and say, hey, everything is definitely on sale right now. Altcoins going across the board, as well as the variations on ETH and Bitcoin. I wanted to look at Ethereum's scenario right now on gas. So daily transactions about somewhat holding on. Of course, gas fees have dropped considerably as we've seen that move. What are your thoughts, Evan, in terms of the altcoins that you're positioning in right now?
So altcoins are very cheap. I love opportunities with Polkadot right now. Cardano is very cheap. Solana too, Avalanche especially, that's up there, and Cosmos a little bit as well. Obviously, the altcoins, you want to be spread out with them. They are riskier, so don't put all your eggs into one altcoin, but there are some great deals on other ones I've mentioned.
Yeah, we will be doing an altcoin sentiment update, because the key here is if you're new into crypto, this is a great buying season. If you were buying at the tops, sure, this is pain. It's definitely one of those scenarios that's hitting. But I think what a lot of people are looking at it as, is this that extended bear market? And the cycle that we're seeing, and of course I think everybody else is identifying, is that this is one of those down market dips that we'll continue to see. Now, is this one that's being fueled and added to because of the stock market and the inflation? Yes, of course. But the scenario is there's some opportunities, I think, here for whether you're looking at short trades or maybe long trades, maybe over the next 6 to 12 months versus maybe short trades that are maybe in the next 2 weeks to 3 months that could potentially put you in a position to do some change or make some changes out there in terms of your investment portfolio. I want to get into our quick review of our sentiment analysis on the two that we just talked about today. And this one is interesting because we did see a pretty significant fall off. This is from our Crypto Power Index. And if you look back here on the 17th, which was just last week, Bitcoin and Ethereum had been holding literally on top of each other. You can kind of see it at 73.60. And it was coming up with some, I think, early hope for the year. And then literally just smacked down. So we saw ETH got dropped down to 64.09, which is obviously a complete downtrend from its last 12 weeks. And then, of course, Bitcoin dropped below its low, which had been hit right there around the first week, which was at 67.18. This is a 12-week run that we keep track on in the Power Index. We are going to make this available to you guys in terms of being able to get access to a lot more of our data through the Power Index, so be watching some videos. We'll also drop this in some of our Diamond Circle emails. If you're not in the Diamond Circle, that's the way you'll get access to many of these kinds of things, whether it's when we do drop additional information around sentiment analysis and where we drop that in comparison to some of the altcoins, because we do all the altcoin rankings, the metaverse, all those kind of things will happen in that phase as well. So interesting thing, I wanted to take a quick look here on just where OpenSea and LooksRare was, because NFTs have not necessarily had as big of a hit in terms of the market shift that we've seen with Bitcoin and Ethereum, obviously, and of course the altcoins. So interesting, I think that the metaverse is not necessarily decoupled completely, but I think we are in a position now we're going to start to see NFTs, play to earn gaming, metaverse, mainly because of how it's related to in real world assets like the Microsoft deal with Blizzard, things of that nature, NVIDIA, all the hardware aspects that really kind of fly into the face of this. So we're going to definitely keep you guys updated on that. But as we go, the key here right now, we're over it right now at 34K. We'll watch and see whether or not Bitcoin can take a recovery this week.
We got to hold it. We got to hold it. Cross your fingers.
Yeah. All right, you guys are listening in over on the podcast right now. Make sure and give us some stars over there. But the best thing to do is jump over here to the YouTube channel where you'll get a chance to see Evan and our analysis ongoing with the charts, the sentiment ratings, all those kind of things that we do on a weekly basis. And of course, if you want, reach out to us. You can hit me up on Twitter. It's @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.